I'm joined in studio by Dawn Murombo, and he's from Mavambo Orphan Care, and we are talking about the VANA activity, which is funded by the United States Agency for International Development, that is USAID. I must say, I thought USAID meant something totally different. And I was far. If I was stopped in the street and, those trivia questions, and they were like, what does USAID stand for? I would, nah. It was not going to work. It wasn't going to work. I would have failed dismally at that. So this radio session has been made possible by the generous support of the American people through United States Agency for International Development, which is the USAID. The contents are the responsibility of VANA Activity Consortium and do not necessarily reflect the views of the USAID or the United States government. So in this discussion, we are going to discuss all things to do with parenting. We are going to touch a little bit on gender-based violence, but this is something that you need to listen to together with your kids. So don't turn the radio off at this point. You need to be in this conversation together with your children, and you'll be surprised at what they actually know. So Dawn, welcome to Cappy Talk.
Thank you so much, Becky.
Excited to be here or nervous? Which one? Is it nervous or excited?
I was a bit nervous before, but I'm now okay.
Yes, I have that effect on people. Once people sit in here, they just calm down. There's no stress.
Yeah,
everything is good. Everything is dandy. All right, so we are talking about positive parenting today.
Yes,
so before we get into positive parenting, what is parenting?
Okay, so parenting can be defined as a full-time vocation that one engages in from the moment that they decide that they want to have a child.
Yeah.
And you can have a child maybe through, it could be your biological child, through birth, or it could be through foster care. And on foster care, we've got informal foster care, but the one that we usually know, the type of foster care that we usually know is the informal foster care, whereby you're taking care of maybe your brother's child, your sister's child, maybe it's a granny, it's a grandpa who is taking care of their grandchild, or any other person who is looking after a child who is not their biological child.
Right.
We also talk of adoption. Yeah, so these are the three ways through which people can become parents.
Parents, right.
So this is a full-time vocation, whereby, and I've used the word vocation for a specific purpose. So it means that this is your main occupation. The moment you decide to have a child or to look after a child,
parent?
You are a parent, and it becomes your main occupation. So whether you're going to work, whether you're doing whatever you're doing, you are having your children at the back of your mind. So that fact itself means everything you're going to be doing is affected. So I think that's what parenting is. We are also talking about the upbringing of a child. I think in general terms, the upbringing of a child. So a child has got a physical component, an emotional component, we've got the psychological component, and we've got the intellectual component. So when we're talking about parenting, as a parent, you're supposed to make sure that all these facets that I've talked about are looked into. So you're helping your child to develop physically, emotionally, intellectually, socially, etc. So basically I think that that's what parenting is. Basically we're just talking about raising a child.
All right, so parenting is raising a child, but wajbira.
Exactly.
Yes, you would have really just gathered yourself together, every element about yourself, and you're like, I am giving my life to take care of this child.
Exactly.
Therefore, I am this child's parent.
Yes.
Okay, so what are some of the factors that affect us from being good parents or that affect the positive parenting?
Okay, so there are a lot of factors that affect parenting. There are quite a lot. So I'm just going to touch on a few of them because there are quite many. So one of them is the size of a family. So if you've got many children that you're taking care of, it means you've got a lot of work that you have to do. True. Because your family is quite large.
True.
You have to be involved in the life of each and every child you're parenting.
Yeah.
So if it's maybe the emotional component, children are different.
Sure.
You have to understand that each and every child is going to be reacting differently. So as a parent, you're supposed to dedicate yourself towards each and every child and to ensure that you are parenting that child according to how they are how do I call it, like what do I call it, like to how they are bringing out their emotions.
Okay, right.
You understand?
Right.
Yeah, so the size of a family is one factor. Another one is income. Remember, I talked about the physical development of a child.
Yes.
So it means as a parent, you have to provide physically for that child. The child needs food. Exactly.
And then you have to divide yourself equally.
Exactly.
At times, there are some that will suffer
exactly
more than others.
Yeah, so if you've got low income, it means you're having... maybe you are going to be having stress, which might affect how you're going to be parenting the children, how you're going to be reacting to those children. Remember, you're supposed to provide for all their needs. So, your income as well is something that affects how you're going to be a parent.
To be a parent, yeah.
Yes. We also talk about the age of a parent as well. I think generally it is known that... for example, grandparents or people who are much older are more lenient, and they are more permissive, they're more knowledgeable when it comes to raising children.
And they spoil them more sometimes.
Exactly.
Sometimes. Okay, I see where you're going with this. So you already started off with the older parents, and they're more lenient because they are tired. They are more lenient because they are tired.
Yeah.
And they don't want these little people to be stressing them out. They're like, oh, you're such a gift and everything, but kanamwana achida certain things. And you are that parent, or like, my child will not lack anything, or I had my child later on in life. You will do anything for this child.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As compared maybe to a younger parent, you are less knowledgeable about a lot of things. You are more strict because you have all the energy and all. So the age of the parent also.
I said no.
And there's one other aspect that also impacts on parenting that I would want to talk about. And this is the way that you were raised yourself, the way that your parents raised you.
It will affect how I raise my children?
Exactly.
Okay.
You are most studies have shown that the way that you were raised is most likely going to be the way that you're going to raise your children. No. So if your parents were that strict with you, that's what you know. So that's what you also do to your children. You're also going to be more strict to them. So if maybe you came from a home where there was a lot of domestic violence and all, it means that's what you know, and that's what you're also going to be doing to your child. For example, maybe your parents grew up beating you up if you did something that wasn't good.
Right.
It also means that you're also going to be beating up your child, because that's what you know. So the way you were raised also impacts greatly on the way that you're going to be raising your children as well.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so what happens to those that were raised in like semi-violent homes? Why I say semi-violent, because sometimes beating is not violence, discipline, but they will term it as, I grew up in a very violent home, I was beaten all the time, but you were disciplined most of the time. So in homes that are semi-violent / over-disciplining the children, that child, when they grow up and they become a parent themselves, chances of them disciplining their children the same way they were disciplined are what? What are the chances on a scale of 1 to 10?
I wouldn't know. I think it depends with the person.
It depends with the person.
Because sometimes we have instances whereby maybe someone came from a very violent home and they learned that violence is not good. So when they're having their children,
they will not then.
They will not.
Okay.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then we also get to look into the factors that are impacting parenting in this era, or the areas that we are living in. And you look at things like, okay, you mentioned the life, you mentioned the income, you mentioned the age of the parent, you then mentioned how they were raised as a child. And then at what point does personality get in?
Your personality, I think, is also very important. For example, if you're someone who is very quiet, it means your children are also going to be very quiet because they are learning from you. One thing that we need to know on parenting is children learn quite a lot from our behavior. They observe us more than they listen to what we say.
All right, so you've got parents that are doing school run right now.
Yeah.
And the kids get into the car. Hi, mama. Hi, daddy. And
yeah.
Manapinda motor, and then it's like quiet. Unless if there's carpet talk playing in the background, we're not complaining. However, Manapinda motor, and then it's quiet. There's no talk, there's no conversation, there's no how was school today? Did you bring your lunchbox? Warasachi?
Yeah.
Or if the questions are there, they are not leading to, are you okay? It's more on what mistakes did you do today?
We'll talk about that very soon.
Oh,
yeah, we're going to talk about that very soon.
All right, 0719 100 404, Capi Talk 100.4 FM, and we are talking to Dawn from Mavambo Orphan Care. We're talking all things to do with parenting. Keep it locked.
It's The Pulse with Becky K on Capital 100.4 FM.
My team.
I've been searching and searching, ndichitsvaga kutsvaga the one angandida rudo rwacho rwandanga ndichitsvaga rwakanga ruri kure kure asi nhasi ndofara nokuti ndakawana iwe ndava nemufaro mumoyo mangu all because of you. Dia wangu, diwe shori yangu, diwe tsiti wangu, diwe chidoje moyo. Dia wangu, diwe shori yangu, diwe tsiti wangu, diwe hakuna mume. Hakuna mume hapana angandidase zvavundoita ini ndashaya ane rudo serwako. You are the only one who knows exactly how I feel. Zvinondirwadza zvinondifadza tichange tiri tose usazondisiye usandirasise ngatigare murudo rudo iwe neni chete chete wechitatu kwete iwe dia wangu diwe shori yangu diwe tsiti wangu diwe chidoje moyo. Dia wangu diwe shori yangu diwe tsiti wangu diwe hakuna mume ndinokuda inini dia ndiri wako inini siti ndinokuda inini dia ndikakufunga ndinozwa moyo neshungu. Dia wangu ndiwe shori yangu ndiwe siti wangu ndiwe chidoje moyo. Dia wangu ndiwe shori yangu ndiwe siti wangu ndiwe hakuna mume. Dia wangu ndiwe shori yangu ndiwe siti wangu ndiwe chidoje moyo. Dia wangu ndiwe shori yangu ndiwe siti wangu ndiwe hakuna mume.
Dia Wangu, Simba Chimombe with the song titled Dia Wangu. Just tell the person next to you to Dia. Okay, wait. Make sure to Muno Dia Wangu. 17 minutes to 2 o'clock. It is lunchtime. And we've got Dawn Murombo from Mavambo Orphan Care. And we are talking about positive parenting. For those of you who are just joining us, welcome to The Pulse. The name is Becky K, and it is time for our lunchtime recharge. And today we are focusing on parenting. We are really focusing on parenting. So we broke it down and we, dissected or gave a definition of what parenting is in general. And this is when you give yourself, when you give your life away to take care of another human being that is literally younger than you. However, we know that in life, you end up parenting even, let's just leave that story for another day, because some of us are parenting even adults. Parenting. But it's okay. So we covered parenting and the different factors that may affect us as parents. We covered on the income, our own upbringing, our cultures, our religions, our lifestyles, and also the age of the parenting. and the size of the family. But the one that really got me was how we were raised ourselves. That affects us as parents. Now, can we look into different parenting styles? I know there's positive parenting. What is positive parenting?
Okay, so I'll talk about that a little bit later on.
Okay.
So I wanted to zero in on the parenting styles.
Yes, on the parenting
because I think
styles.
this is where the whole story
is this where the whole story is?
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about the parenting styles.
Okay.
Let's get there.
So the first parenting style that I want to talk about is the authoritarian parent. Exactly.
Yes.
So the authoritarian parent is that kind of a parent who sets rules. And the consequences of breaking the rules are that you are punished. So they set rules for their children, but they don't explain to their children why they are setting those rules.
Should I?
Yes, you should.
Why?
Because a child has to understand the reason why they are doing this. Remember, they are developing. So you are impacting on their intellectual development.
So don't just
on
punish
their
me,
social.
explain to me.
Exactly.
Okay.
If I would just come to you, Becky, and give you a punishment over something that you did, obviously you won't take that well, right? You won't
Yes.
take that well.
Yes.
So imagine if you as an adult is feeling like that. What about to a child? A child is growing up, remember? They've got all these feelings, all these things that are happening to them. So if you just give rules to them and you don't understand the reason, or you don't explain the reason why you're giving them these rules, it then becomes so confusing to them. You just become that parent who talks and talks and talks and never listens. So an authoritarian parent does not listen to their to their children. They just set rules, and rules have to be followed and adhered to.
Yeah.
So the kind of a child we are going to be developing there, number one, is we are developing a child who is fearful. Because they've always been hounded upon by their parent. If you don't do this, I'm going to beat you. If you don't do this, I'm going to do this to you. So that's why they are fearful. We are having children who have no ambition. Because they are always fearful. Maybe they're just thinking that if I do this, if I do something that is wrong, my parent is going to punish me. So this is the authoritarian parent.
Yeah, very
your child will have
strict,
low self-esteem. They don't have initiative. They are always afraid because they know that every action has got bad consequences.
If I wake up late,
Exactly, you understand.
Okay, all right.
And then we move on to another parent, the permissive parent. So the permissive parent is a little bit on the opposite side of the authoritarian.
Okay.
So the permissive parent will set rules, but they don't really follow up on the rules, the regulations that they have set.
Listener, if that's you.
Yeah, they've set rules, they establish guidelines, but they don't follow up on all those things. We usually call them indulgent parents. They are more reactive than they are, being proactive. So they wait for a child to do something.
And they're like, oh, what are you doing?
They don't even reprimand a child if they do something that is not okay. So they are just, very lenient, So basically, that's the permissive parent.
Okay.
Then you also have the uninvolved or the detached parent. I think this is one of the worst forms of parenting. You are not even involved in the things that are happening in the life of your child. You don't even. You pay school fees, but you don't even follow up the child to school to see if they are attending school. If you're called to school, you don't even come. You're just uninvolved in the things that are in the things that your children are doing. Yeah. But lastly, there's this type of parenting, which we call the ideal parenting.
All right.
This is the authoritative parent. So the authoritative parent communicates clearly to the child. So they set rules, they set guidelines, they set various standards, and they explain to the child why they have set these rules.
So the authoritarian, the authoritarian
is the one who sets rules. And is very strict.
Okay.
They don't explain.
And then the
authoritative
one.
You're exerting your power as a parent, but you are taking the views of a child into consideration. Children have got feelings.
It's a bit on the fair side.
Yeah.
Like, I've got the authority, but I'll be fair with it. I'll punish you, but I'll tell you while I'm punishing you.
I'll discipline. I don't want to use the word punish. Because
Oh,
punishment is meant to inflict pain. So discipline is more to do with learning. So I'm
Okay.
going to discipline you.
I'm going to discipline you.
Exactly.
Ooh.
So this
Now I feel like you're judging me. Like, who is this girl? I wonder what kind of a parent she is. Talking about punishing and all.
Yeah, I
All
do
right.
understand.
Okay, all right. Okay, so the authoritative parent is more on the disciplinary side of things than
Exactly.
than the punishing.
So
And
they
they don't really instill fear in the child.
They communicate. If a
Okay.
child fails, they tell the child to, pick themselves up, to dust themselves up and to try again. An authoritative will tell you that, why did you fail? You failed because you are too lazy. I told you to read. Exactly, you understand.
Right, yeah.
So the authoritative is more involved in everything that a child is doing.
Okay.
So emotionally, physically, spiritually, they are there for the child.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you are tuned in and you are probably just trying to figure yourself out, kuti uri papi in terms of this parenting, because now I'm at loggerheads in my head right now. Like, what kind of a parent am I? Because I think I'm a mixture of everything. There's times when I want to just instill fear in those kids. So let me instill a little bit of fear, and at the same time you're like, no, I don't want them to be afraid. I want them to be able to be confident, and I want them to stand up for themselves. They must be vocal, they must be able to communicate well.
Exactly.
But if I'm not communicating well, how are my kids going to communicate well?
Exactly. Like I've said before, that children learn more from seeing what their parents do. So if you set a rule and say everyone in this household is supposed to be at home at 6 p.m. But then you come home at 9 p.m. So if a child comes home at maybe 8 p.m., how do you know that they were at home before 6 p.m.? You said that, you're the one who gave that rule.
Sharp, because if you ask questions like that, then you hear some African parents who said they better be home at 6, whether I'm there or not.
But how then do you know that your child is home when you're not there? So I'm trying to drive home the point that I'm trying to drive home the point that if you are a parent, you have to lead by example. So an authoritative parent leads by example. You want your children to respect others out there. It starts with you, the parent, and then the children
because
will learn
children
from
mimic
you.
Actually.
Exactly.
They mimic exactly what
Yes.
they
what
what they see
exactly.
at home.
You want children to respect others as a parent, and then your children will learn from that. So that's the type of parent the ideal kind of parent that we want. A parent who communicates well with children, like a parent who sets standard and then follows through those standards with their children. A parent who learns with their children. Remember, we learn from children.
Yeah.
We learn from children.
Yeah.
Children teach us kindness. You can do a lot of bad things to a small child. But then after 10 minutes, the child will come back to you, all smiling.
Atokanganwa.
Exactly.
Hey.
So we learn from children. And
Yeah.
as parents, we have to be that observant within our households when we are with our children. We also learn quite a lot from them. So instead of us just giving rules and rules and rules,
Right.
let's also learn from our children.
Oh, all right. 0719-100-404 from Mavambo Orphanage is Dawn Murombo, who came through to talk to us about positive parenting. So we have like a few minutes left, maybe 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, will you be able to tell us what positive parenting is? Because now we want to be these positive parents.
Okay.
Maybe tichachinja nas, or maybe tichachinja mangwan, but just help us in the event that the words that you speak are going to make us rethink how we have been parenting all along.
It's all right. So when we're talking about positive parenting, we are talking about that parenting whereby you're showing love, you're showing warmth, and you're showing kindness to your child. You're also guiding your children. I've already alluded to this earlier on. And you're encouraging them. Rather than discouraging them, you're encouraging them, you're teaching them. You're also helping your children to thrive.
Right.
By sending messages like, you are loved, you are beautiful, you are handsome, you are good, you matter, you can do this. So you need to encourage your children, like every day, always, so that at least they become that desirable adult. You understand? So positive parenting is also about communicating effectively.
Right.
Do your children really understand
The words
what
that are
you are
coming
saying? Yes, they have to understand that. And you also have to take into consideration their feelings and their views. Yes, you are the parent. It's a given. You are the father, you are the mother, you are the uncle, the niece. We all know that. The child knows that. So you don't need, to work so hard to prove to a child that I'm your father, I'm your mother.
They know it already.
They know it already.
Sure.
Yeah, you don't need to hammer that every day to a child. Exactly. So on positive parenting, we also talk about positive discipline. Remember, I've said there's a difference between punishment and discipline.
Yeah,
so when you're talking about punishment, it means you've done something wrong and we're going to punish you so that you won't repeat it. So punishment inflicts pain, whilst discipline is a learning platform. So we would want a child to be disciplined so that they learn. So that's the reason why I said you have to explain to a child the reason why you're giving out all your, mitemo yako and all these things that you're telling them to follow. They have to really understand. So discipline is about, it's a learning platform. So as a parent, you have to show unconditional love to your child publicly, praise them. You have to be fair in quotes, and reasonable. You also have to avoid being judgmental. If a child does something that is not good, sit down with them, talk to them. Don't be judgmental. So learn to separate a person and what they have done.
And the thing that they have done.
Exactly. So a child maybe has misbehaved at school, and then they come back home and and you say unoboa. There's a difference between unoboa and waiters unoboa. They're two different things. If I say unoboa,
like you're coming for us, hey.
If I say unoboa, I'm referring to you as a person. Generally, as a person, you're boring. But if I say you've done unoboa, I'm just talking about what. So from that now a child will learn. So this is what we say, like what we talk about when you're talking about positive discipline. As parents, we have to understand.
I think you should come every day and just like panel beat us as parents, because now I'm trying to think of the word that I've said. Because at times as parents we get angry,
yes,
we get upset, and we have a lot of stresses already.
Exactly.
Like, adulting stresses.
Yes.
And parenting stresses and work stresses and relationship stresses.
Yeah.
Spiritual stress. Like we're just stressed,
yes,
right? And then a child does something wrong, or a child wants your input in something, but because you are not okay, then the child is pounced on, and all your stress is then transferred onto the child. And then the next time this child doesn't open up, no, because the last time when I tried to talk to you, this is what you did. So I would rather,
well. Yes,
I would rather
be quiet.
I'd rather be quiet. I understand we are with you again on Wednesday. You're coming through Wednesday again, or is it in the near future, on a Monday again?
I think in the near future.
In the near future. All right. So this is Dawn Murombo from Mavambo Trust, and you can follow them on all social media platforms. Mavambo Often Care on Facebook, on Twitter, Mavambo_trust, and on Instagram, Mavambo Often Care. Or you can go to their website, mavambotrust.org.zw. It's Capitalk 100.4 FM. Stand by for the news.